In this video, I'm going to show you how to set up your travel poster in Adobe Illustrator. After you do your sketch, you're going to go over your sketch in black pen so that it's nice and neat, and then you're going to scan it so you have a JPEG image of your sketch to use as a template in the background so that you have some layout to work on top of. Your sketch doesn't have to be perfect, but you're going to use it to help you structure the way you're going to draw in Illustrator. So this is what our document is going to look like when it's set up. We're going to have a sketch layer, we're going to have a background layer, a middle ground layer, a foreground layer, and a text layer on top. So here's an example of a travel poster from a student, and you can see that the sketch is on the bottom. The background is the sky because that's the furthest away. Then the mountains are the next layer closest to us. So this is like a stack of papers, okay? So the mountains are the next, then the trees, then there's some closer mountains, then there's a road, then there's the text, and then there's shading that the student has added on the top to make it look like it goes back into distance and has some fog. So this is how your layers are. So they stack on top of each other from the front all the way to the back, and you want to make sure that you have them in order. Now each layer can open up and it will show you what paths were made. So these are all the paths that were made to make the sky. So it includes some clouds and a background that's like a blue background for the sky. All right, in the mountains, these are all of the paths that were made in the mountains. So when you organize your layers, it helps keep everything together. So what you need to think of when you are setting up your document is what's going to be in the very back, what's going to be in the middle, and what's going to be on top in the front. So let's set up a new document. We're going to go back to the home page. We're going to click Create New. And we are going to make a letter document. This is going to be a print document, and we're going to make it in letter. Let's go ahead and change the units to inches so that it's 8.5 by 11 inches. And let's title it with your first name, or sorry, your last name, underscore first initial underscore travel poster. All right. And we're going to leave this as 300 PPI and CMYK color, and we're going to click Create. There is your document. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to place our sketch on the document. So I've already downloaded the JPEG of my scan. So we're going to go to File, Place. I'm going to find my travel poster scan and click Place. And then I have to click where I would like it to go. So I'm just going to click in the middle. And then there it is. Now I'm going to have to rotate this a little bit. So I'm just going to place it where I want it to be. And it's on its side. So I'm just going to place it where I want it to be. And then I can go to Object, Transform, Rotate. And I can rotate it 90 degrees. So you can just type in 90 degrees or just click right here for it to be 90 degrees and click OK. Then you want to make sure that it fits on the artboard like this. Okay, if it doesn't fit on the artboard, you can resize it, or if your sketch needs to be bigger, you can resize it so that it places where you would like it to be in the artboard. I'm going to go back to right here. So once it's there, you'll notice that it has this little X over it. This is an image, so this is not going to be part of my work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open my layers. So my layers are over here in the panels, and it is right here. The shortcut is F7. I'm going to open it. I'm going to look at the layer 1, and I'm going to double left click in between the words layer 1 and this little dot to select it. Double left click to get my layer options. I'm going to check template, which means it's going to dim my images to 50%. And it's not going to be able to print. So this will show up as a guide for my layout for the background, but it will not print and it will not be part of my actual image for my work. So it's going to make it grayed out a little bit, and you'll see that my cursor changes to a pin with a no sign next to it because it can't work on this layer. It's locked, and the little eyeball that would be in the layers is now a box. That means that it doesn't print. It's a preview. And layer 1 is now in italics. So now we're going to add a background layer. So I'm going to click the plus sign down at the bottom of your layers panel next to the trash can. And then I'm going to call this layer, double click on the words to call it background. And while I'm here, I might as well name my sketch. Okay, so I'm going to select my background layer, and I'm going to think about what I want to go the furthest back. So the furthest back, I kind of want like a nice blue sky. So I'm going to make a rectangle that fills the whole page. And I'm going to select a color for that rectangle that matches like a blue sky. And then I am going to leave that in my background layer. So I can lock that by hitting Control 2 or by clicking the lock. So this is in my background layer. And if I want to see my sketch again, I can just turn my background off so that I can see my sketch. So I think right in here, I'll add a couple of clouds. So I'm going to turn this back on, and I'm going to try to draw a couple clouds. So I'm going to take my pen tool. I'm still on the background layer. I'm going to take my pen tool. I'm going to turn off the fill, and I'm going to draw a couple clouds. So we learned how to draw clouds in the Zen of the pen, right? So you can click, drag, alt, 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 and then let's click and drag. Okay, so I have a cloud, but I don't want this black outline to be there. I want to make it look more atmospheric, so I'm going to change the black outline to no stroke, and then click on the fill and change that to white. And then we also have some opacity options in the properties. If you select this shape and you click on your properties panel for the shape, I'm going to change my workspace, reset Essentials Classic, so you can see my properties. So in the properties panel, you can see you have an opacity right under the color of the fill and the no stroke. There's an opacity. I can make it so that this cloud is a little see-through, like this. So I took the opacity down, which is kind of nice. And then I can copy this cloud by holding down Alt with the selection tool, and with it selected, I can hold down Alt and I can copy, and I can make some clouds. And you can see how where it was transparent, it adds layered opacity. And this is kind of a fun way to make clouds because it builds a puffy layer of clouds. So I'm going to go ahead and do a couple more of these. Let's do my layer of clouds. Okay, so here's my clouds. So in my background, every path that I've made for my clouds is in this layer, and my sky is in the layer, and it's locked. So I'm going to close this. So you can see I have a sketch and I have a background. So now I'm going to lock my background because I'm done with it for right now, and I'm going to make it invisible so I can see what would go in the next layer. So in the next layer, I want to do the thing that's the next closest. So I think that's going to be the buildings that are kind of behind this mountain. So I'm going to add a layer by clicking on the plus sign next to the trash can to create a new layer. And I'm going to do, this is going to be the middle ground. So these are the things that are in between the background and the foreground. So I'm going to do the buildings, and you can label it with the title of what it is so that you can remember. Okay, so this is the middle ground. So these are I'm going to do the buildings. So the buildings, I want to make closed paths that I can fill in. So I can use my shape builder tool to make this. So I can use my shape builder tool. I can make a shape. Let's set my colors back to default. So I can make a shape here, and then I can just have like little pieces cut out. So we learned how to use the shape builder. So maybe I have the shape builder to make this. So maybe I select these, and then I'll zoom in so you can see. All right, so maybe my shape builder tool can be used up here. So it can go like up a little bit. Okay, so there we go. All right, so you can also use the hand tool to move the document around if it gets lost like that. So you have the hand tool, the shortcut is H, and the magnifying glass for the zoom tool is Z, okay? So you can zoom in. So remember, for the selection tool, you select everything, and then you can go to your shape builder tool, and I can cut out this and this, and you can see that's my sketch behind here. So maybe I want to move my points so I can make this. Now, even though I can't see this, it's under the bottom, I still want to fill it in, so I'll leave it there. Okay, so let's say I have this, and then my next shape is kind of a rectangle with a circle on top. So we have a rectangle, and then I have an ellipse tool for the dome on top of this church. And then I can use the shape builder tool to select, so I can select both of those, and I can use the shape builder tool to combine together those, okay? And I can do the same thing for the cross. So you can make like a little rectangle tool up at the top, right here, and, oh, I'm on the text tool, oops, delete. All right, so the rectangle tool, you can make a rectangle there, and then you can make a rectangle, oh, it wants to do text tool, okay, there we go. So we can do a rectangle and a rectangle, and you can zoom in and get a little more detailed on that. And you can use Shape Builder to put those together. So I can make those, and then I can use my Shape Builder tool, and I can, if they're both selected, use my Shape Builder tool. Probably need to zoom in on that. And I can put those together with the Shape Builder tool. Add, add. So now that's one shape, okay? And if you want to adjust this, you can also adjust these points, and you can move these points up. So I can take my direct selection tool that adjusts points, and I can click here and hold down Shift and click here. Then I can just move that line up so that it goes up to the top of where my sketch is. You don't have to match your sketch perfectly, you can change your mind, but I'm going to put this together like this. Let's select this point and hold down Shift and select this point, and then move them up with the arrow. I'm just moving the up arrow key. All right, so we can construct our buildings like that. I'm going to go back and fit on page down on the bottom left, fit on screen. And so far I've got some buildings that are going to go in here. So now I can fill the buildings in with a color that I want them to be. The buildings in Greece are actually pretty light colored anyway. They're pretty white, so I could do something slightly off-white, or I could just fill them in white. And then I still need to do this one. Okay, so it's okay that this is going to be a solid shape because I'm going to cover this up with part of the mountain on the next layer. So we're going from the back to the front. So if I look, this is what I have so far. So you can turn it off to do, and look at your sketch to do the next thing. So my next layer would be the mountains, which is the foreground. All right, and then I'm probably going to use the pen tool because these are organic shapes. So I'm going to start all the way around, and I'm going to use my pen tool. And then remember, you want to fill in a solid shape. So even though these are lines, I need to make sure that it goes all the way around. Now this is going to be water, but my mountain is going to be filled in. So I'm going to go imagine that it's underneath the layer of the water that's going to be on top. I'm going to make a layer like this, I'm going to fill it in with a mountainy color. Let's find something that's kind of like rocky, like a rocky color. All right, so I have my rocks right here, okay? So now I have this so far. Now I'm going to put the water overlapping right here so you can see. So I'm going to make these invisible for a minute and look at my sketch. And I'm going to draw the water on the top. So layer 5 is going to be the water, so it's going to be, the water is actually on top, so the water. And I'm going to draw again with the pen tool because water is organic. Now I have the fill on when I'm drawing, which makes it really hard to see what I'm doing. So I don't recommend drawing with the fill, because see how it's trying to fill it in? What I'm going to do is I'm going to need to go all the way to the corner and then all the way back up like this to do the water. And then let's make this a watercolor. Something a little more blue. All right, so there's the water. Okay, so if I turn this all back on, this is what I have so far. Okay, so you're going to build up your layers in order, and you can just keep going back to your sketch. You can also toggle the visibility by just clicking and dragging down to see your background and then see back up to see what you've added. But this is how we're going to set up our document. Okay, so I'm going to save my work, file save as. I'm going to save on my computer, and I'm going to save it as my last name underscore first initial underscore travel poster as an Adobe Illustrator file. Okay, so make sure you save it on your number drive. Click save, click OK. And that is how we start the travel poster.